Hey, we are live. Welcome to the Lynn and Brian Show. I'm Lynn Serrano,
I'm Bry guy.
the Bri guy. All right, I like that. Oh, that could stand for a lot of things. Bri, Brian, brides. Yeah, yeah. The BB man. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Real and Raw Show. And I just noticed my background is not the one I wanted. It's one of those days, you guys. Just one of those days. I thought something looked wrong. So, anyways, I'm dealing with a really wonderful migraine right now, but I wasn't going to let that stop me from being here. So, I'm just not all with it today. So, and I thank Brian because he's a busy man and he's taking time out for us. So, I
Yeah,
love you for that. So, thank you for
yeah.
being here.
It
So,
customer experience these days is lacking in so many ways, and it's like it's there. It's just a matter of how sensitive you are, or if you're a business owner, like the standard you hold yourself to, and you find out how rare it is, or businesses that have absolutely no idea where they're missing the boat and how they can improve. You know, you go into a place and there's nobody at the front desk, and it's just like okay, and they look at you funny when you don't need to make a bigger deal. You just got to pick up something. That so
yeah, a lot of
that's
business,
been
a
my
lot of,
experience today.
yeah, it's funny you say that because a lot of businesses think now that they can stay stuck with the excuse, well, we're short-handed,
No,
because of COVID. No, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like I'm noticing that. And then the quality of the workers. Well, at least they showed up. We got a body here today, and it doesn't matter if they don't do it the way they normally do it, but they showed up. It's
I
like a
mean, I
achievement
mean
award thing.
the whole thing about it is that you go into a place, you have a pickup. Okay, as long as you fulfill upon what you went there for, great, right? So you can move on mentally. But it's like I got to go through layers, and I got to sign this paper, and then I got to go here, and then I got to do that. Can we make up, Dennis? Happy to have you here. Can we make up a lot of different things about it's not as seamless or as tight as we want it to be? Sure, but in the whole scheme of it is, it's like okay, maybe you didn't leave early enough, or for those kinds of things, like especially if you've never been to a place. So, in short, if we are business owners, or if we hold ourselves to a certain standard that how we serve our customers, and if we get less than that, it's just a reminder of like, okay, they could do so much better.
I know the gusto of many businesses or anything is like it's so flippant. It's
You know?
freaking flippant. Like it really is. Hi Deanna, thanks for
Hey,
being
Deanna.
here.
I mean, I was talking to my girl's mom this morning, as far as like Larry Wingate and other people talk about, like the definition of integrity. Do what you say you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, right? And I'm, and if a business owner commits to that, every single customer, they're going to blow their customers away, because it's everywhere where it doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
they'll gladly take your money if it's a business context. They'll take your
Well,
money, but then it's like after they get paid, it's kind of like when they get very loose with their commitment to you as a customer.
I'm back to working at the hotel just 2 days a week, just running the front desk, and I'll tell you, I'm just grateful to go back there. I would never work for another hotel because everything is about the customer service. And what gets me though is like, I mean, it's very rare that people complain, or if for some reason we didn't know something's going on in the room, they tell us and they're very appreciative. But the funny thing is that when I see people, when I say, how was everything? Oh my gosh, it was the best. But I realize that it's not the experience they're having on everything else that they're encountering. So it's like we're the needle in the haystack of their experience, whether it be flying, and because the airlines are kicking their asses off and delaying their trip for 1 or 2 days.
Right.
And yet, we're the light in the shining of the thing they're going through. But again, it just every time I see people going, oh my gosh, it's something we've been doing. I've been associated with that hotel for 10 years. It's no different what we were doing 10 years as we're doing now, but the compliments are extreme because people are not seeing that anywhere else, even in the hotel industry.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize is that customer experience is not like they're comparing their experience to other hotels. They're comparing it to every single experience that they have
Mm,
throughout their lives.
yeah,
Everything from dining to takeout to whatever. I too many people, in my opinion, well, it's just my opinion, they're so short-sighted to believe that it only, that, oh, I had a crappy experience at that hotel. Well, that serves you everywhere. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It does not just serve in that particular category. And I think a lot of people, they're now obviously we can't control that, right?
right,
We can't control what another business does or how they
right.
treat you, but we can make it so dang clear that with the opportunity that we're given, that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that number one, we gave her all. Number two, we did it with integrity.
Yeah. And Deanna
Deanna
just
says,
said,
I just quit my job and moved on because he repeatedly said one thing to me and did another. Good for you. Good for you,
yeah.
Deanna. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love my GM as far as one, she empowers us at the front desk to take and handle the situation, and for two, we do everything and anything right for whatever. We had new beds come in, and the exercise room had some mattresses in there. Somebody was there for 3 days, couldn't use the exercise thing. We gave them a discount. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just you do the right thing. You don't
Well,
say, well, that's too bad.
Well,
You
and
know,
and I think that there's a huge disconnect between, and I was just having this conversation when I was cruising really fast to get back here for the show with
thank
not
you.
worrying about the internet quality, is is that if a customer has to ask and the actual server, whoever, the buyer and seller, if the seller cannot sense that there's friction, they're clearly oblivious and they're really not there for the customer. Because
Yeah,
if there's any sense of friction, even if it's just their perception, they should be willing to do the plus one philosophy, right?
yeah,
It's the ultimate worst if a customer has an experience that was not favorable, and if they have to ask versus the actual business, or even the empowerment of the employees where they can do it themselves. They don't have to ask anybody.
yeah,
And that's the true power of training. That's the true power of a company's philosophy in their culture, is if they empower their employees to do that. Where, like, if it's at a hotel, right? If you're waiting more than 5 minutes, you get a free voucher for coffee in our coffee shop, or
yeah.
the vending machine or our snack bar, whatever. Like, no questions asked. Like, here's how we serve you. It's in restaurants, it's so easy. Like, when servers get no tips, they get all upset at the they get all upset at the customers, and it's like, no, you don't. You do realize that you get a tip based on how you serve me. So
Yeah.
your report card is from a lack of serving me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they get all upset at the customer, and it's just like, hey, you had an opportunity to serve me a certain way, and you for whatever reason were not trained to. Now, I will say this is that whenever I go into a restaurant, there are other experiences. Is I have to be delicate, because if a server is not trained that well, and there are ways of seeing that, I got to be delicate because they don't know what they don't know,
Right.
and that business did not train them. That's not the actual server's fault in this
Right.
context. But
But
they're obviously the face of the business as a customer, as a diner, or as a person at eating.
well, and the compassion does come when someone's new or they haven't been there long. And then, a manager or somebody goes, well, sorry, they didn't know, and then makes it right to the customer, because what's truly at stake is the chance to come back and have better service, because
Correct.
you're allowing them. Now, if you're an asshole and you don't do nothing about it, you'll never get that customer back in the door.
Well, and that's where this whole thing comes to fruition. As Shep Hyken, who's I met him for the first time. He signed a couple books for me a couple weeks ago at my mastermind.
Cool.
He's from St. Louis, and that's where my event was at. And one of our featured presenters is actually good friends with him, so he popped in for a little short keynote. And one of his big things is about what's the lifetime value of a customer. And it's like, okay. And this kind of ties into what John Taffer says from Bar Rescue, is that if people have a bad experience, they don't say anything, they just don't come back,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
so it also ties into being like, okay, what does it cost to make it right for a customer? No questions asked, you know, where not only are you not going to pay for this meal, you get a free dessert on us. And we didn't ask you if you wanted the dessert. We're just doing one step. We're plus one, right?
Right.
We're there to
Right.
make it right to your liking. Plus, we're going to do one step further. Because I tell you what, for a $50 meal plus a $10 dessert, that $60 bill, what's the lifetime value of a customer if it's over a crappy experience at
Yeah.
$50?
Yeah.
I guarantee a lifelong customer is going to pay more than $50 over the course of their lifetime of coming back here. Or
Yeah.
even the perception or the bad mouthing of you to all their friends. Or maybe, I mean,
Well,
if they go to if they even go to a place for drinks, how few drinks does $50 get you,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's so unreasonable to me about how simple this can be.
I'm just laughing because the other day I'm very I stand by my recommendations of where I tell people to go from the
Yeah,
hotel.
sure.
And the one guy tells me, and I told him, well, you can go to Applebee's, that's commercial, and you can go here and there, and I wouldn't recommend this place because I wasn't happy with it, blah blah blah. He comes back and goes, well, I went to this one place. I go, did I recommend that? He goes, no, you didn't. I said, okay, we got that straight.
Yep,
but
yep.
but again, it's the what does that say about you when you recommend a place? It says a lot that you didn't care. Now, mind you, it could be an off day, it could be whatever. But the best part of the story is when you say, well, this went wrong, but you know what? They fixed it with this, or they did that. So,
Yeah.
okay, they had a shitty day and yet they made it right. We even had where our elevators were out on a Friday. It was supposed to be fixed on a Saturday. We have 4 floors. And we tell people, sorry, the elevator's not working. We're going to take, if you're on the 4th floor, we're going to give you 40% off. 3rd floor, 30%. And 2nd floor, 20%. You wouldn't even elderly, even seniors were so happy to take the 4th floor. They thought it was great getting 40% off of a $220 room. But
Right.
also they were like, things happen and you're trying to fix it. And they were compassionate, kind, and unbelievable. Why? Because we were just way up front with them saying, we're trying to get somebody here to work on it the next day, but we want to compensate you with that. So
Right.
again, it's the be upfront instead of saying, well, shit, elevator could go down and, what can we do about it? No, instead we were compassionate enough to say, well, you know what, we think, and literally most of them were like, didn't even care about the discount. They were
Right.
that
Yep.
compassionate because we were
Yep.
so sorry that the elevator didn't work. And can you handle the elevator? And they were like, we're young enough to handle the stairs. I'm like, okay, and again, it's just so nice to be able to
Well,
do that kind of stuff.
I mean, you're humanizing the experience where it's just like, hey, by not having an elevator available for you, this is less than what your ideal stay is.
Right,
You know what
right.
I mean? And I think that you touch on a very important piece is that because it can get very hostile,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the seller is arrogant or egotistical, or if they puff out their chest, or if they're oblivious where they are lacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually not in one area. It's usually in a small bunch of areas, but the more that they are oblivious to how they come across their perception is that we all have blind spots, right?
Yeah.
But usually the customer experience is either as great or it wasn't, right? Let's be honest, right? Like
Yeah.
kind of in the middle really doesn't exist. Either you're just like any other restaurant or any other stay, or this place wowed me, right? And then you kind of forget about it. Okay. But when a customer feels heard,
Oh, and we
when they
we are huge about that. We're
yeah,
so apologetic. Even the GM, she could stand there and if if something happened and it's not we totally are compassionate enough to say, we agree. We wouldn't want that done to us, and we're so
yeah.
sorry. We're literally yeah, no doubt
And
about
what
that.
and what happens a lot of times is that when a customer's heard, that's all they needed.
Oh yeah, for
They
sure.
don't want their money back. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great gesture, but it's not necessary that they want to feel heard instead of lip service from a
Yeah.
seller's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If they feel like they're heard, you know, the true reason for saying anything comes to fruition. And
Yeah.
it's not because they're trying to get out of paying or blah, blah, blah. Usually it's not that case. But for them to feel heard, for you to sit down and listen to them, not having any pre-existing notion of what's going to take place or what you're going to do, but for them to feel heard and for you to take notes, for you to actually do something about it. Because I've I've shared this with so many people, is that whenever a business comes up to me, like in a restaurant environment, like if you could rate how we served you, and if it's corporate, I usually know what it's going to do is that they're just going to toot their own horn and disregard the rest, right? And I'll ask them from time to time, I'm like, okay, do you guys go to work on the stuff you need improvement in? Or is it only to toot your own horn and pat yourself on the back?
Oh no, matter of fact, we got text messages with the hotel, and if we didn't do something right, we want the details. But even when I work the front desk, my GM's doing something back there, and somebody says, "Hey, my sink was, clogged a little, and I had to, take a shower with wet feet." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's gross. It's terrible. I'm so sorry." I'll get the GM, and she'll say the same thing and feel bad, and we're like, "What can we do to make it better?"
Yeah.
And but again, it's one of those things where they hear, wow, you didn't just say, okay, thank you, have a good day, and just whatever. They saw that hey, my GM's going to stop what she's doing. She's going to come over here and you're going to get to talk to her, so that doesn't happen again,
Yeah.
So
It's there's such an opportunity, and it doesn't matter what business you're in, it doesn't matter whatever, is that there's always a way to humanize what takes place.
oh
There's
yeah,
always
because
is.
we're all human and we are all going through things and have compassion for each other. But the compassion of what I don't have compassion for them is when they start making the excuses instead of finding a solution to make you happy. And there are some of those GMs that don't know what their butt from their face
Well,
and do that.
and here's the thing is that there's only two ways that you can address this, proactively or reactively, right? And the thing about it is that the longer it goes without being addressed, like from a customer standpoint to the business, the longer it goes, the less likely there's going to be any likability. That, I mean, whatever relationship or whatever kind of connection that was created dissolves over the course
Yeah,
of time. When you
yeah,
have to go back and think about it for 2 weeks and blah blah blah, it's like, okay, you're just trying to ignore it or hope it goes away. Which, no, you're
yeah,
you're not doing anything about it. You're just hoping that the customer goes away or whatever. But here's the thing: people do their people do their reporting with their dollars.
yeah,
People give the report card with their dollars. And it's
absolutely.
like, okay, in a restaurant environment, especially like small town restaurants, I I look at why there's nobody there, and they keep advertising, and then they wonder why. So like when they get people to come in because they advertise on a radio or in a paper, and then they can't keep them there, and I'm like, okay, your advertising did what it was supposed to do, but you couldn't keep people there because of the whole experience.
Well,
You
that
know?
that's like people know Spectrum and Time Warners and all that
Yeah.
other people. It's like it's BS that all new people $49, and yet no, Brian, you've been with us for 5 years and you're still going to
Yeah.
pay $179.
Oh,
So kiss my ass. It's like really you would get more people to tell, they lowered my bill and my bill is really good. You should come here because my bill is consistently cheaper. No, they've got it so wrong. And if they would go back from their mailing list and the people that canceled and go back and work those, they would save their money on advertisement dollars. But I guess the IRS probably doesn't have a write-off for, well, Brian spent 15 hours trying to get our old customers back. I don't know.
and in the games that they play, everything
Yeah,
from cell phones to TVs, or TV
yeah,
service or internet
yeah.
service, it's like, wow, the games that you play and the time that you invest in trying to get your rate down. But if you know, as illogical as it sounds, like if you cancel your service for 60 days, then you're able to get a new customer discount. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like who
You
thinks up
just
this stuff?
6 months of not getting $100 or 6 months at $49. What do you think is better for you? Or zero? Which door do
Right.
you think is better? So,
I mean,
and
whoever comes up with this kind of stuff or whatever, that's why marketing departments at a lot of companies, they could not they could not sell or market to anybody given the stuff that they create.
yeah,
You know what I
and
mean? Like if they were to use the stuff that they generate, they wouldn't be able to sell it to anybody
right.
because that's not how people communicate. That's not how people buy.
I'm not going to oust two main cell
I
phone
know.
carriers, but I will say this. I know somebody that works with one carrier, and you know who they are, but I'm not saying their name. They work with one carrier, and yet the service is sucky there. They go with another carrier. So if
Yeah.
that doesn't tell, if they don't take care of the people that they're supposed to be taking care of, then that's where you got to realize the
Yeah.
point.
The reason why I want to talk about this is, number one, it was spontaneous, but number two is that too many people focus on the return on investment. But I think that return on inaction, if I do nothing, what is likely to happen, right? In a business context, in a personal development context, whatever it might be, is that you're going to be where you are, if not worse, if you choose to do nothing. And
Yeah.
if you're okay with that, well, then continue on. But I find it so much more fascinating psychologically to look at if I do nothing.
Right.
And that kind of inspires me to answer the two questions every day: is what are you going to do about it? And number two, how can you afford not to?
Absolutely.
And usually
Great.
it's not money. I'm not talking about money. I'm
Yeah.
talking about everything else.
No, being a human being, doing what you're set out to do, your purpose, and especially in the restaurant business or anything else, you can't afford not to give the great quality service, or you're not going to have no customers. I mean, it's just the bottom line.
Correct.
This has been a great topic, Brian. Thank you for being here. I know our
Of
time is
course.
limited, so
Yeah.
and we'll figure out a topic for next week. But until then, we say have a great. This is the pre-weekend. We wish you a great weekend till next week. Any final words there, Brian?
No, thanks everybody for being here and just tuning in and being a contribution to Lynn and I and our community.
All right. Love you guys. Bye. Love you,
Have a
Brian.
good weekend.
Yeah,
Love you too.
bye.